Get me ready for the X&O, ayy. Getting ready for the X&O, ayy. Get me ready for the X&O, ayy. Getting ready for the X&O.
Well, welcome everybody to our first in visual episode of the X's and O's podcast presented by AAU Australia. I'm Hayden Stringer and I'm here with Michael Houben. G'day, Michael.
Hey, how's it going? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Well, you know, it became pretty hard to cover things when we really couldn't do much ourselves, hey?
Yeah, that's been so right. We haven't been able to do too much. And obviously none of the junior players have been able to either. So it's nice now that we've had this little break to be able to say that basketball is probably on the cards pretty soon and we should have something to talk about again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a beautiful, clear day today in Melbourne and the sun's shining and we're able to go out and do more than we were used to be able to do. So, you know, a lot of positivity around the place, I reckon. And obviously with the news of our restrictions easing a lot more, it looks like there will be quite a bit more play to go. What are you kind of looking forward to, Michael?
Look, first and foremost, I'm looking forward to getting back on the court myself. It's been a long time since us seniors have been able to go and play some games, so it'll be awesome. But more appropriately, I'm looking forward to seeing all the juniors back in action. You know, unfortunately, the AAU event that we saw was cut short, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the rest of that plays out, as well as any other events that are going to transpire throughout the rest of the year.
Well, yeah, we left on a cliffhanger almost. You know, we're heading into the finals, and then cut on that day. No more games. We're lucky enough to get through the season, but finals to go, and obviously VJBL weren't able to get through their season, and now we're cutting into their next season as well. So it'd be good to see how things pan out. I know I've heard from different clubs having different approaches about how they go about even selecting these teams, whether they do a tryout or not, and things like that. So it's exciting times again for basketball here, and we've got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, a lot to catch up on. As you said, really difficult circumstances for these young players. Every year is so pivotal for their development, and having this year off is going to be quite difficult for some. I'm sure some aren't probably in optimal game shape. But here's the time to now ramp things up again. And look, maybe they aren't in optimal condition, but I'm sure they're all raring to get back to it. It's been a long time, so yeah, I think we'll see some great basketball after no time.
Yeah, no question. And I think that's why we kind of had to take that little break that we did. We want to make sure that everything that we cover is of the best standard that we can have. And obviously one part of basketball that we all enjoy is the ability to watch it. And so we wanted to make sure that we have, video content that we can put out there that you can enjoy, and also a better grasp and a better understanding of what we're covering as well. So yeah, we've gone on a bit of a break. We're back now, better than ever, we'd like to say, as they always say. A bit shorter as well. So it'll be easier to be able to catch us. But yeah, let's get into it. Michael, what's the news that we need to talk about first? What have we missed? Well,
look, there's been a lot going on off the court over the last period of time that we've been in lockdown here in Victoria. Obviously no basketball for a long time now, but we do have some things to look forward to towards the end of the year. Nothing set in stone at this point. As of now, the restrictions don't allow any contact sport, but it does look like things will head up in the next few weeks or so. That seems pretty confident in my opinion. And yeah, from there, I would imagine that we're going to be finishing off the AAU event that we saw earlier in the year, as well as having some summer events over this break when VJBL isn't going ahead. So it's a really important time for these players to be hitting the court and getting those in-game reps up.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess for a lot of them that have missed this period of time, especially I feel for, the class of this year, next year, and even the year after, kind of losing this little key period of their development when it comes to gameplay. It's really important to get as much gameplay as you can now to be able to kind of make up for that. So it seems like there'll be a lot of, events going on. We don't know exactly, VJBL start. We know that they're following with I think it's the Orange 20, they said, which will mean trainings beginning at the 8th of November, I think. And then, when it comes to AAU events as well, I know that there's quite a few events that are planned for December and onwards. So yeah, it looks like there'll be a lot of activities for kids to do in no time, and for the kids that want to play, there'll be the opportunity to play.
Yeah, definitely. It goes both ways as well. When you have that time off, there's plenty of practice time to work on your body, to work on your game, and then come back and apply that into game situations. So those that have been working on their craft in the meantime will hopefully take a big step up during this time. And yeah, as far as it pertains to AAU, I mean, I think it brings upon some very exciting opportunities that it may have been in the pipeline for a while. We're seeing the borders between states start to open up slowly, and even the New Zealand trans-Tasman bubble, which looks to be on the cards as well, which is really exciting. We've spoken about the talent in New Zealand that would be very keen on coming over to Australia and playing our competition. And as things seem to be easing, a lot of those opportunities seem to be coming back on the table. And I'm sure it'll be a busy few months. I'm really looking forward to those things coming to fruition. And most importantly, I'm looking forward to seeing the end of the event we saw earlier this year. We saw some great basketball. Unfortunately, it was cut to a halt, and now we get to see the 21s and the select team hopefully compete in that. That will be really interesting. Hopefully we see some more players break out and make a name for themselves.
I think that last bit that you said is definitely the most exciting thing for me, is more players to break out and make a name for themselves, because, we look at what we have in the country, and we see that there are a lot of kids that have a lot of potential, and, if they did this or if they did that, then they could become a completely different player. And I think with these events, especially because it's a little bit less about the constraints of the coaching system and more so about the flamboyance of the players. It allows for the players to kind of, I guess, extend themselves and show a little bit more off of what they do have, and more of their ability as well. So that'll be good. And, like you said, what is opening, that opens up so many opportunities. I mean, how good would it be to have a couple of really, really strong New Zealand teams come over here and provide for a pretty good competition as well? That'd be awesome. But before we move on from, I guess, talking about this break and everything that we've had, I got a question. What's one thing that you think was the best thing for you about this whole break?
This whole break, it's hard to look for some silver linings. It's a difficult one. It's been, for me personally, it's been a nice time to step back and watch a lot of old film and come across some players that I hadn't seen before. So often you're caught up checking out the biggest games that are going on at that time. You might miss some other people that may be going by the wayside a little bit. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed having the NBA bubble over the break. That really helped me get through the time. I'm sure it did for you as well. It's just been a fun change of pace. So yeah, look, I'm looking forward to getting on with normal going forward, but there were definitely some things that kept me through.
No, good stuff. I'm surprised you didn't mention the, I guess, the high quality in which your hair has come through as well. Because I reckon, you're heading towards elite category here with the hair. It's looking good.
Yeah, it wasn't really a choice. Hairdresser's been closed for a while, so I just had to let it grow, and I'll let the people decide whether it's something worth keeping. But it's getting long. Might have to be time for the mullet, I reckon.
Yeah, I back that. Anything's better than the hair that I was putting up. So
we're lucky we didn't have the video chat while you had that haircut, because it was horrific.
Yes. Yeah, it was horrible. Oh, no photo evidence of that exists as well. So it's done. History has it now. Well, is there any other news topics that we wanted to talk about before we move on?
Yeah, look, that's about it. I think we can cover later on the talk about an NBL second league, which is very exciting. We had the NBL commissioner talk about that a little bit over the last couple of weeks. It's an exciting opportunity for on the fringe veterans as well as young players. But yeah, other than that, I think I'm just ready for more AAU. More than anything, who I'm looking forward to seeing the most. A bit more Justin Ochaya on the select team. There's your segue for you. But he's
yes,
he was really fun. That's a guy I've been missing over the break, and he's a guy that's he's going places.
Yeah, no question. Well, like you said, great segue, because who's up next? It is Justin Ochaya, the star player out of the Tribes, our little favourite for sure. We get to chat to him for a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back and talk a bit more about it.
Get me ready for the X.
All right. Well, welcome, Justin. Thanks for coming on and having a chat with us. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, real good. Happy to be getting back to normal, I think.
Yeah, me too.
And
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time for sure. I know we're excited to watch you play now as well. I think you've gotten a bit more hype than previously, which is really good because we, rate your game really highly, and we're really excited to be able to see you play with and against some pretty high talent. So pretty keen for this to all get started.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to get back out there.
So, Justin, what is it that brought you to basketball? Why did you start playing?
My older brother. I think I was in year 5, because before that I never really played basketball. I grew up playing footy like my whole life, even till now. I still play footy, but I think it was in grade 5. He actually, my first ever game was an under 18s game when I was in year 5. Yeah,
You're kidding.
and because that was his team, so he just put me on that team. I started off scoring no points to like 2 to 5 points. And I was getting better, and then that's where it started. And then I started working out with them, and then that's where it started in grade 5. But I didn't take it serious until like I say eighth grade. That's when I started taking it serious. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So first of all, footy was your first sport.
Yeah, footy.
Wow. Okay, well, I talk a bit about footy then for a second. What's your go in footy?
I don't know. I always cause growing up, cause I grew up in like the countryside, so that's where like everyone was playing. Everyone was playing footy, so, and it was always on TV, so
Yeah.
I was just, cause there wasn't really much basketball on TV, so I fell in love with footy. I played it. Even now, I still play. I play in the reserves and yeah. So,
Wow.
but I don't play as much. But yeah.
Okay. Was there ever a point when you considered taking on footy as your sport, as your thing to go, pro in, I guess?
Yeah. I'm still thinking about it now, but
yeah,
but I don't know. But now it's mostly basketball.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. So who do you follow then? Just as a side note.
The Magpies, but I don't really watch it as much. But
yeah.
They used to be good, and I used to watch it all the time. Oh, good, but I don't know about now.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Well, obviously you're honing your skills in with basketball as well, but maybe that's a bit of a what if. What if you were lining up in a year's time playing for Collingwood. That's cool. That's cool. Well, okay. So you've taken, basketball on and proven that you're pretty good at it as well. What motivates you to continue to improve as a basketballer?
What motivates me, my parents, like coming from where I came from, and like what my mom had to go through. Like I just think about it and it just pushes me.
Yeah.
So that's my motivation. My mom really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's your motivation, and I think that's pretty cool because not everybody, I guess, has those experiences that you have and that your family has, and to be able to carry that on in a not only in a positive way, but in a way that you can then shine and help bring others along with you as well, I think is pretty cool. And you can see the motivation in you because when you play, you're not just playing, you are like, it's like, your heart's playing as well, which it's almost special to kind of watch that because it's not, I feel like when you play that, you are such a skilled player, but if there's something that you couldn't do, your heart kind of makes you do it anyway. That's the way that I see it. And I think that is something very special. So it's beautiful to watch that. So what instances, when you're playing, have you kind of felt like, you could really take basketball somewhere?
Well, could you say that again?
When you've played, like has there been any times when you realized you were like good enough to be able to take basketball somewhere?
Like I've always felt that like from a young age, I always felt like that, like I was like the best on the court. Like whatever court I'm on, I feel like I'm the best player. That's just my mindset.
Blessed with confidence.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. So when you are on the court, what's your favorite thing to do?
Me, my favorite thing to do, I like, you probably don't know, but I like creating for others, like more than myself, because I don't know, I get more joy out of that than like for me than me scoring. But I couldn't really do that last tournament. But yeah, that's what I like doing.
No, I love to hear that, man. I love to hear that. I do remember you coaching against you actually in that final at the Spring Madness. And I remember very clearly that you did create extremely well for your team. And that actually, in my opinion, I think that's why we lost and that's why you won, is because you were able to create pressure off of your scoring, but actually probably more so, you're able to alleviate pressure off your teammates by attracting more attention and then being able to create for them. But I would never have picked that was what you loved. Nice.
It's a good skill to have.
Yeah, I agree. Almost an essential skill, I think, because you can always become a better scorer, but not everybody can learn to pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, what levels of basketball have you kind of played up to this point?
I've played VC. I've played yeah, that's like it. I played like the high rep. Played in the high rep competitions. The Vic Country champs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
about it for me.
Have you ever felt like, I don't know, up to this point that maybe you haven't received the recognition that you kind of deserve from, I don't know, selection teams or just from general, from your opponents or even your teammates?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think everyone feels that a little bit, but yeah, I feel like I could be on a state team.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, to be honest with you. In fact, I'm pretty surprised that you haven't been on one so far. But, I look at the last maybe 5-10 years, and there's a lot of guys who've gone on to have great basketball careers who never made a state team and who never made a national team as well. So, clearly who is selected in the state teams isn't the be all and end all either, which is good. But yeah, I kind of get the vibe that, people should probably keep an eye out for you a bit more than maybe they do at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, that brings me to my next question. I'm going to ask specifically about the XYBL tournament because you were the MVP of that tournament, and I think it was pretty obvious that you were the MVP. In fact, I don't think anyone else would have been voted in. How did you feel about that going in a team with less offensive options that you probably would have been used to?
Yeah, going into that tournament, like I knew like this was my opportunity. That's why I decided to play with the team I played with, Tribe, because I could have played for, City Kings, but I wanted, to stand out because I knew this was my opportunity. So I want and play with the Tribes, and really try to show everyone what I got. Because last, what was Spring Madness, I couldn't really do that because but this tournament, I came with that mindset just to dominate.
Yeah, and that's what you did, isn't it? you dominated. You had a great. I think a lot of people were really excited about your offensive tournament, but I was really excited about a lot of your defensive efforts. There was a couple of blocks that you were able to get where I had to hold my breath for a second. It was like, wow. And all around just had a really, really strong tournament. And your team also just looks like you guys enjoyed playing with each other as well, which is an added bonus. I don't know if that's true. It looked like it.
Thing. Yeah, that's another thing because these guys that I'm around, like, there's like a family vibe between us because we've known each other for years, and we go to school together, we go to the same work together, and we live in the same like block basically. So I see these guys every day.
Wow.
So yeah, these guys are basically my brothers.
That's so cool. And
yeah.
When the XYBL tournament comes back, you might be able to bring those brothers to a win too.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, coming from that, I think there's actually been, I think you were able to help bring some eyes to one of your teammates in Minule. I know a lot of people were really, impressed with him, especially on the defensive end. And I don't know if the eyes could have come to him if it wasn't for you as well. So you've done him a good solid there as well.
I have to look out for my boys.
Yeah, that's admirable, man. So in this tournament, the video and footage kind of came out as well, and I think that's something that AAU is really pushing, is that there's more footage out there so that more kids can get the exposure that they deserve. And you in particular actually caught eyes from a couple of scouts. In fact, a scout in like Europe did an analysis on you and everything. How did you feel when that all started happening?
Yeah, I was shocked as well, like, but I don't know. I put in the work, so I'm happy. Like, like whenever someone compliments my game, it's like the best feeling ever because I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it. So it's always the best when people do stuff like that for me.
Yeah, well, you're right. That work that you're putting in is what is helping you get those accolades, and you deserve it. You do. And, you said just before you finished training, I don't know if you were weights training or ball training, all of it is towards the same goal. If you continue to grind, you keep going. So it's awesome to see. So, all good, all good. I got time for one more question. And this one won't be basketball related. Let's throw it a bit left wing here. All right. So, if you were to tell me that I need to listen to 3 artists, who would they be?
Music.
Yeah, music.
You gotta listen to Lil Durk.
Yep.
You gotta listen to NBA YoungBoy.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you're gonna listen to Lil Baby. That's the top 3. That's who you have to be listening to right now.
All right. Yeah, I'll
Those
jot
are the
that
hottest
down.
artists right now. Hottest artists right now.
Little Baby is everywhere right now. Literally everywhere. All right, sweet. That's great to know. Great to know. Thank you. Well, I appreciate the time that we've been able to have, Justin. I especially appreciate being able to kind of learn, I guess, more what's in your mind and kind of where you want to be heading. Well, I guess that leads me to one more question. Where do you see yourself heading? What is your potential?
My potential, pro. I think my potential is definitely pro. Playing pro, whether it be in Australia or overseas. But yeah, I definitely see myself playing pro.
Awesome. Well, I hope to see you there very soon. Thanks again, man, for joining.
I appreciate it.
Nah, all good, brother. Have a good one.
Get me ready for the X.
Well, it was great to hear from Justin. Obviously, he was a great player. We've spoken about him heaps on the podcast up to this point, and to hear from him himself and learn what motivates him and his mindset going forward. It's great to see that side of a player and be able to put that out there. So he sounds like a great kid, and I'm sure has plenty of great milestones to achieve in the future.
Yeah, it's good to kind of understand his mind and see where he's at. Obviously, a very determined kid, which is good. Always good to have, that determined mind when you're trying to achieve something so grand as he is. I really enjoy like watching the way that he plays, because he doesn't just play, to show off and things like that. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. Like he has something to prove constantly. And it's great to watch as a spectator, not so great to watch when you're the opposition coach, because you have to figure out a way to beat that. But, sometimes it's just, got to appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely do. Yeah, he the first thing that comes to mind, when you watch him play, is tenacious on both ends of the court. He plays hard, and yeah, he's a bit flamboyant, and yeah, he's a bit of a show off, and that's all good and well, but it's not a case of style over substance. He is doing all the dirty work out there. He's busting his ass on both ends of the floor, and there wasn't 1 second that I was watching him where he wasn't taking it to the other team. And that's why for me he was the MVP of the event we saw earlier in the year, on top of some very established players from Victoria. So he goes hard, a very skilled player, very physical for his size. There's so many things you can say about his game, but yeah, I think the thing that stands out most is his approach to the game.
Yeah, and like you said, he won it over, no chumps. Like, he won it over some very good basketball players, some basketball players who are going to be able to enjoy, potentially a good career in the sport. And so stamps himself on showing that he can compete with those players. But I think it also was proof of how important he was to his team as well. Because I mean, you would almost argue that it would have been a unanimous MVP vote if we had any idea of who was voting and how many people voted. Because it was almost you couldn't argue for anyone else. Like, he lifted his team to the nth degree just to be able to get wins, and they ended up being a winning team.
Yeah, he was in the perfect circumstance to sort of capitalize on his skill set. He was on a team that really required him to be the offensive engine for that group. But kudos to him, he stepped up to the plate in that role, and then some. His usage was high, and he made the most of it. He was, a dynamic scorer in every game. I don't think I saw one defender that could really put a dent into his production. One game that comes to mind, I was watching him go against Red Roo, and Josh Duach, the Iona commit under Rick Pitino, he's a extremely good player, extremely good defender with a lot more size as well. He's like 6'5", 6'6". And I just remember Justin beating him off the dribble time after time and thinking, like, if Josh isn't going to stop him, then who is? So, in that lead guard position, he's just so dangerous. And I think he's on his way to landing somewhere in the US, whether that's D2, JUCO, somewhere along those lines. I think he could be very successful at that level.
Well, going on about, where is he going? After, college, do you see him as someone who can be able to take that step and become a professional basketballer?
I definitely wouldn't rule it out. I mean, he's, given it to everyone that I've seen him play against so far in the limited sample that I have. He will have some question marks that he'll have to iron out over time. Not necessarily things that he can't do, but things that at least in the footage that I've seen is yet to prove himself, whether that's through his actual play or the circumstances that create those question marks. But to see him be able to facilitate the ball a little bit more, to score efficiently, because, in that high usage role, you're naturally taking more difficult shots. So he was very much a volume scorer on that team for Tribes at AAU. And yeah, look, he another thing he'll have to prove at a higher level is his finishing, because he is an exceptionally good finisher. As we said, he's very physical, uses his body really well, can finish around defenders well. But at 6 foot, 6'1", that's always a challenge when you go up against bigger, tougher competition. And, that's often a time, if you're talking about the college level, where he'll have to develop a floater game and a little in-between game a little bit more that maybe he didn't need to show off at the level that we saw. So it'll be interesting to see how much of that he has in his game. But yeah, I definitely think that he has a bright future. What level that will be, it's very hard to say at this point in time, but either way, there's plenty of opportunities that await him. And I think the reaction we saw from his play at that event online really is a testament to that bright future, because we saw, scouting reports go up internationally about him, and him getting recognized across multiple different platforms. So, it's the perfect example of what AAU can achieve when they, can illustrate players like him in a different setting where he gets to show off his game, and it's really paid dividends.
Yeah, exactly right. And, looking at him from the perspective of where he was maybe a year ago to where he is now, in terms of just who has seen him, it's gone from basically nobody to, a lot of eyeballs and a lot of important eyeballs as well. So it's been good, very, very good for him. And obviously he'll be looking to try and, one, improve his own game, but also, two, I think improve his scope of I guess, visibility as well. So let's look at it. Let's just sum it up. We'll say what our favorite thing is about his game, and then one thing that we'd like to see a bit more of.
For me personally, the thing I love the most about him, was his tenacity attacking in the open court or off the dribble. He just was relentless. That's what comes to mind for me. Yeah, what about you?
What comes to mind for me, I don't know if you've seen the movie Rain Man, but the character that is Dustin Hoffman, he's always telling his brother that he's an excellent driver, right? Justin Ochaya is an excellent driver. I love the way that you're talking about the midway. I love how good he is at, even in the half-court play, being able to cut through the defense and being able to beat multiple players to be able to get to the rim. And like you said, the finishing will be, further scrutinized at higher levels and things like that. But if he can finish the way that he did off of those drives, very, very dangerous guy.
Very poetic.
One thing that you'd like to see more of?
Something I'd like to see more of, I would say playmaking. I think, he was very score first out of necessity for that Tribes team. And it's not to say that he can't pass the rock, but that's something that as he plays at higher levels again and plays with more talented teammates, is having that balanced floor game and being able to balance that relentless pursuit of buckets with getting his teammates involved. So I don't have any doubts he's capable of it. We'll wait to see. Maybe that select team playing in the 21 and under competition might be the perfect scenario for him to demonstrate that. But yeah, I think that will really round out his offensive game if we can see that from him.
Yeah, I'm going to go kind of similar to what you said. I'm going to say off ball. I didn't really get to see much of who he was off of the ball on offense. I think we saw probably maybe 85% of the time him having to take the ball. And, that's probably not much of his fault. But it would be great to see, what does he know? Does he know how to get to the right spaces? Does he know how to set his teammates up for good positions? Is he a good screener? Is he able to cut well? Things like that. I'd really like to be able to see that in the future and when he's around, those players that can help, take the burden off of his shoulders.
That's a great point, especially at, an undersized point combo guard sort of position. The question remains, okay, yeah, you can play as the engine of the team, but can you adapt to, as you said, playing off ball, playing alongside other people? Because the higher level you go, the less likely you are to be the focal point of an offensive scheme. That's just how it is. So, yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, and that is a great point too. The higher you go, the harder it is to be the number one guy because there's a lot more number one guys up higher. So if he can adapt to that, then again, that probably helps his star rise a little bit more as well if he can show that he's good in those areas. Well, that's probably about it. Talking about Justin, obviously we like him a lot and hope the best for him, and we're excited to see him play again. Now we'll move more into the direction of what you were touching on earlier. The NBL general manager, is that right? Did I get the position right? He made a comment of interest. Michael, what did he say?
Yeah, so he was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago and he was basically entertaining the possibility of an NBL second league or a Division 2 sort of thing. Not the same as NBL 1. NBL 1, is designed to run over the NBL off season. This would run concurrently to the NBL season, kind of like the G-League does in America. That's sort of the comparison that he went with. But for me personally, when I heard the way that he described this idea, really reminded me of the academy system over in Europe and how they develop young players, build them into their systems over there and, try to build them from the ground up until they can enter the NBL pipeline. Because ultimately, what's their goal? Their goal is to get local talent joining the professional league so they can make the league as strong as they can. And look, I think it's a great idea. It will take a lot of investment. I don't know the nuts and bolts of it and how feasible that will be, but the idea is awesome. And if they can put that into action, then it's going to be massive for so many of our young players, as well as so many of our fringe NBL 1 guys, as they play concurrently to the NBL season and try to crack rosters. And it really provides that niche for players that are not inclined to the college pathway over in America, because we know that isn't for everyone. So many players leave college early, and it can be really good prospects. Guys like Sam Froling, he left Creighton pretty early. There's a countless number of pros currently in the NBL that have been very successful, but just couldn't make it work at college. And they ended up coming back and signing NBL contracts at like 19, 20, 21 years of age. So in a sense, they were almost wasted years a little bit for them. And this time around, if players don't want to go the college route, then they can develop in these sort of farming systems. And just like Europe does right now, those players will grow up and develop in those systems. And we have really good junior systems and opportunities in place to really maximize kids' potential and development. We've seen that with the Center of Excellence and the NBA Global Academy in Canberra. And if we can mimic what Europe's doing, we'll be really successful. Because you think of a guy like Luka Doncic, he was playing professionally from like the age of 14 or 15 or something. Same with Ricky Rubio. He started when he was like 14 or 15. And when you look at the draft every year, yes, there's some European players playing NCAA ball and going to the NBA through that route, but there's so many more that are playing in Europe and have been since a young age, developing really well there, and then becoming draft and stash candidates, or, going from their European club to the NBA. So that's really, in my eyes, what they seem to be mimicking. And I think it would be a really great plan. What do you think, Hayden?
Well, I think it's very interesting that you brought up Europe, because if we look at the European players who have gone through this system, often the European players that do go to Europe aren't the number one player in their grouping either. Usually the number one player is in those, like you said, farming systems. They're like academies, and they develop. And for a lot of them, they get caught up a bit earlier into pro action. They lose their eligibility to be able to qualify for college. And then that's why we see a guy like Doncic go, as a top pick. We had Rubio go, maybe 10 years ago as a high pick, because they're actually ready-made. And I think that's what Australia is missing, is we don't have ready-made players. We need players to go to college, or we feel we need players to go to college or to be in an NBL team to be ready to be able to make the NBA. Whereas now, with this opportunity, we do provide for that, like you said, a similar system to Europe, where we can help them to be ready at an earlier age to be able to make the leap to the NBA. And so I think that's an exciting thing. I think it's also exciting for basketball fans because, one, the involvement of a second division means more grassroots fans will be able to enjoy and be exposed to the NBL environment, which will then also mean that the NBL in and of itself should be able to have the opportunity to grow as well. And I think we're seeing that the NBL is fastly approaching other major sports in Australia to become competitive and also to potentially, be as popular as they are as well. And so, they're making some great moves there. And with this second division idea, whether they do it as, Melbourne United B, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix B, or whether they even, chuck some of these, in, maybe the Melbourne affiliate is in Werribee or Southeast is Knox or whatever. It'd be exciting, and people will be drawn to it, and we'll see our kids grow at such a faster rate. Like, can you imagine like the best 15 and 16-year-old players having this exposure now rather than having to wait until they're 18? Some of them are burnt out by then, and so they fall through the cracks and go to AFL instead. Like, this could be game changing.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen how the NBL 1 has sort of come about and developed over the last few years, and that's been a major success. Everyone involved has been super happy with the branding and exposure that brings, and the opportunity for interstate sort of competition. That's been awesome. I'm very interested to see how the NBL 1 will coexist with whatever this may turn out to be, because in many respects they do seem quite similar as a second grade competition. And yeah, the specifics of how it works will be very intriguing, because again, if you look to the Europe comparison, there are teams that compete in multiple levels. Like you think of Djurp Reith, he's someone that has competed over in Serbia, in Croatia, and he plays for his team in the Adriatic League at the moment, but he also gets called up for EuroLeague play. Maybe it's a more apt comparison maybe for Australians is the VFL, AFL sort of dynamic there, and having players maybe, could they be called up from the B team within the season to the A team? How are the rosters and contracts and stuff going to work in that regard? Maybe you can bring a young guy like a Luke Travers or someone that, has all the potential in the world, but isn't getting much court time on a good team yet. Does he go down to the B team and, light it up down there? Is that a possibility? There's all sorts of exciting potentials, with this sort of format. And a great opportunity to, as you said, grassroots support. It's really encouraging that, the NBL is trying to build itself up, and they have very successfully up to this point, but they're not just looking to, next stars and international players, upping the imports, etc. They're looking at the foundations, which is the local talent pool, and bringing local talent back, building the fringe NBL talent up. Because what it'll do, in theory, is provide these fringe NBL level players, not just playing half a year in the NBL 1, but also a professional or semi-professional opportunity 12 months of the year. So that, gives them more incentive to pursue their craft, as well as providing a much greater breadth for the junior players to get talented opportunities. Because, we praise the Center of Excellence and the NBA Academy to no end, and rightfully so, but they are limited in their capacity to provide opportunities for players. They only have 10, 15 guys at any time. And we know that Australia has so much more talent than that. And many feel like they have to go overseas to, get the opportunity that they deserve. So if this, is able to come about and provide opportunities for those young players, then, we could see them develop at home. And as we know, the NBL itself has proven itself as a factory for player development and a pathway to the NBA. And that's what we want to see at the end of the day. So bring on more guys like Will Magnay, more guys like Luke Travers, as these guys continue to grow up and come through the ranks. Mojave King and Josh Giddey, in a way, their decisions to sign with the NBL was a product of the LaMelo Ball and RJ stuff before them. And likewise, we knew the US talent thing was going to dry out a little bit next star wise because of what the G-League did, sort of cutting the NBL's lunch a little bit there. But what it did do in a more sustainable sense is open up the door for Australian talent to go, hey, this is a viable option. And if we see Mojave King and Josh Giddey do well, and there's many more as well. You got Tamuri Wigness, you got Blake Jones. All these guys have signed on with the NBL teams. They know what's up now. So now that the floodgates are open, I think we're going to see many more players see the NBL and more specifically, not just the NBL, but these lower divisions as a viable pathway to professional basketball, as opposed to going to college when they feel like that may not be the best option for them.
Well, it poses the question as well. Will these be new teams that we've never heard of before, or will they be connected to NBL 1 teams?
It's a good question. Like you'd think in one way, maybe it makes sense to just take the NBL 1 teams and, extend it to this, full time. It makes it a little bit complicated when you have to set up new teams and organizations. I don't know the specifics of how that's going to work. But that'd be cool too, as you said, maybe to have feeder teams that are directly associated to the NBL teams. As you said, maybe it's not the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix B team. Maybe it's the Knox Phoenix, in the same way that you have the Chicago Bulls and then you have the, what are they now? The Windy City Bulls. So maybe that's a cool little play on it where they're sort of their own entity, but they're still clearly branded and connected with the main NBL team. I don't know how it's going to work, but I think all of the different alternatives are really cool and exciting. And the bottom line is I have a lot of faith in the NBL head honchos to do what's best. You know, it's very exciting. They, you know, even proposed this opportunity. I didn't think it would be feasible. But yeah, they've gone from success to success, and I think they'll churn out something pretty cool.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, the other point that I wanted to re-emphasize on what you said is the idea of the drop-down call-up. I think that could be a game changer because, like you said, guys like Travis have barely gotten any basketball in the last couple of years. And so that, you know, does that play on their mind and the fact that they haven't played, you know, genuine competitive for a while? Does that hurt their experience because they need to be able to have that experience to be able to grow? Well, this takes that away completely. It, you know, you don't have to worry about it. They're not sitting for months and having to wait out their basketball career. They do get to have that opportunity, and they can prove themselves to be deserved of a greater spot on the NBL team by great play in this second division as well. I guess that brings the question of, does that bring in two-way contracts where they are players that can go one way or the other, maybe stay with that B team for the majority of the year, but have the ability to qualify to play as well. So the probably 15 or 16-year-old in me is like jumping for joy because I love like thinking about, you know, creating teams and creating leagues and things like that. And there's just so many possibilities, and the fact that it is feasible is amazing. So, you know, good on the NBL. And like you said, a lot of what they do turns to gold. And let's hope that this is something that turns to gold as well. And let's be grateful that they're not just here for a paycheck. They're here for the better of Australian basketball.
Yep. NBL, Australian basketball's in really good hands at the moment. You know, I think I've been able to identify a need here and are really seeking to address it. And there's so many potential positives to this idea. You know, I was speaking to Adam Capehorn not too long ago, and one of the things that he mentioned is that he feels that it's really important for players to play against older players or adults as soon as possible. He feels that that's really good for their development. You know, that'll be addressed in theory with this, I guess, idea. And then again, as you said, grassroots, not just getting kids involved or families involved, communities in the second division teams themselves, but with their connection and affiliation with the top division teams, hopefully that breeds more NBL interest as well. There's just so many different elements that you could potentially discuss and think about, and they're all really positive. So yeah, NBL's on a good thing.
No doubt. Well, I think that's about us for time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for our first venture into the video world with the X's and O's podcast. It's presented by AAU Australia. And don't forget, coming up is the events that AAU is running. They're back. They'll be coming up in December. The finals will be here.
Getting ready for the Getting ready for the